I'm sure you've read about it. I'll send it to you.
Sure.
Hey, thanks for coming along, everyone. We're here obviously for our wonderful friend, George Rice. Just like to give a special welcome to Gail Cooper. George and Gail are our two club patrons, so thanks to all of those who brought a George Rice board along. As you know, George is one of our main surfboard manufacturers, one of the, we often talk about the big six in Sydney, but the big three, I guess, in Victoria back in the late 50s, early 60s, going into the 70s were George, Fred Pike and Clint Bell. Very, very special person. George started shaking boards at home back in the 50s, at 56 Arthur Street, Fairfield. First premises were in High Street, Preston, before he moved to Watterdale Road in West Heidelberg, back to High Street in Northcote, then down to Long Beach on the Bute Highway, where we finished up in about 1974. He sort of became lost to surfing and forgotten about to a fair degree, but then we resurrected him with a big article in Australian Longboard magazine, got him back into the scene, then started coming up to Crescent and Noosa in particular. We had a wonderful group down there with Chuka and Bill and half a dozen other group down there. And George became a real celebrity. Noosa embraced him. He reacquainted with the other well-known surfboard manufacturers like Gordon Woods and Bill Wallace and Joe Larkin. He had a wonderful time up there. They all became the centre of attention to some degree. I know Bill and Jarrett and the organisers, and had him up on stage with all the boys, and he became a bit of a celebrity. One of the things I remember most of all was George being down on the beach with a couple of his boards and the other older crew. Little kids are coming up to him with a pen, getting him to autograph their t-shirts and their arms, and later on drinking beers, his favourite BBs with all the boys, having a wonderful, wonderful time. He was an avid golfer, he was an avid fly fisherman, he was a fanatical Richmond supporter. He went for about 37 years when Richmond were down in the dumps, and I think it's absolutely marvellous that in the twilight years of George's life that he got to see Richmond win 3 premierships, which was really, really exciting. Wonderful, wonderful friend, wonderful family man. I certainly can't speak highly enough of him. I'm sure if Bill or Chuka or anyone else would like to say, or Murph or someone would like to say a couple of words, but please feel free to.
I can tell you one night,
Happy Kona, beautiful lady.
I had the privilege of talking to him a couple of days before he went up there, and he said, Bill, they'll never guess what? He said, I've got a fridge in my room. We told him just before he passed, we all loved him. We never believed that, but we all did love him. And Sam and his.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Chuka.
We were lucky in Anglesey because George, as you know, had a place in Anglesey for, well, Lorraine's parents had a place in Anglesey. So for the last 20 years, George would slip over, he came over at lunchtime, he just wanted to chat. Normally he'd come about 4:30, and he only drank VB tinnies. We only drank VB stubbies. So he'd bring his own tinny. And we'd just sit there and we'd chat away, and if people were in the shop, he'd chat to them, and they were in awe. And one of the nicest things he said, I love being in here, it's an old surf shop. I'm around all the things that I enjoy, even though the 30 years he was away from it. He said, but when I'm here, I'm just George. He said, I go to places like this and he's George Rice. And everybody gave him the accolades he deserved. But just to have George as George and hear all the little anecdotes and everything else that was on it, you got to know the real man. And as Bill was saying, we went and saw him 2 weeks before he passed, and he was still as bright as a button. Couldn't get out. We were planning. I said, where's the lowest wall? We'll get you over the wall and sneak you back down Anglesey for a day. And he's going, I reckon, I haven't been out of here, you know. He said, I don't quite know how to go. Maybe we just go out the front door. Their life. And they never really knew that George was the top of the pile as far as surfboard manufacturers go. And we were lucky that he came back to the fold and gave us George Rice. That's about it. Rest in peace, George.
Obviously standing here in the sand, we can't splash the water.